Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today, back again, we did a show many years ago, is Marion
Many.
Baker. And that's when I was just doing audio and not video as well. And she wrote a great book, The Lime Green Plastic Covered Couch, which we'll touch on today, but I'd like you to go back and listen to the old show, because even though it was just audio, we covered a great deal, which was wonderful. But today we're going to be talking about post Valentine's Day love, how to keep that love alive. She says her big why is to evolve the human experience, and in other words, awakening to ourselves. We can use any catalyst in our lives for that purpose, and her focus is on relationships and money, two of the big ones. However, today we said our forces would be on relationships, and so just in time for post Valentine's Day, we're going to keep that love alive and make sure that money doesn't get in its way, because very often money does get in the way of a relationship. The relationship with money personally can affect a relationship with somebody else over money. And she says that people can benefit around these areas that struggle with the feeling of easily triggered or helpless in their life and relationships, like there is something bigger than them, that they have no sense of personal power or to be able to overcome obstacles. If you are struggling with either to find a great relationship, or once you're in one, you struggle and feel like you start to lose yourself, then today's topic is for you. Marion will talk about the egg, what's that, and how it can help you change everything about the way you relate to relationships, to yourself, and most importantly, how you relate to the world in general. The egg will help you to learn how to effectively consider yourself ahead instead of self-sacrificing, so you do not have to feel lost and alone. And she is a counselor, and she's very, very passionate about what she does. So let's dive right in. This is post Valentine's Day. And, it's kind of nice that we have a day for love, but that isn't just one day of love. It should be relationship with love with ourselves, love with what we do, love of life, love of everyone else, and in love with somebody. And that should be a 364-day year. But, yeah, we get the hype on Valentine's Day, and then it seems to be rather like the sugar crash. Boom. So how do we keep that love alive? Welcome back, Marion.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you for that lovely introduction. It's great to be back.
It's good to have you back. And I really want people to read the book, and I really want people to go back and listen to the other show, because this was all about you and your relationship and your journey to find love at that time. But now, of course, you are there, and this is your specialty. People don't realize that it's not about finding someone to complete you. It's about finding
Mm.
someone to complement you. And then it's discovering each other's nuances, traits. Um, you may fall in love with someone, but now you've got to get to know all the little nuggets about them, and there might be
Yes.
some that might aggravate you.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, because when we go into love, we are literally in this like hormonal psychosis, really.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's a beautiful time, and it's a fun time to be in, but it's definitely not a time to make decisions about the rest of your life,
Yes.
or even about who this person is, because you just
Mm.
don't know, really. You don't. And I mean, what I always say to people is you don't know really who you're in a relationship with until you have your first conflict.
Mm.
And then you get to really learn a lot about that other person.
I always used to say play Monopoly with them.
Yes, perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
it kind of really shows you that competitive trait and everything else. And it's um yeah, because when you have that first conflict, insecurities on both sides come up. Does the blame game come up? Does the shame game
Mhm.
come up? Are they attacking you, or is it something that, it really does reveal a lot about the person and how they deal with things, but how maybe injured they are, not by
Yes.
you, but by what they're carrying through life. And,
Yeah.
how to deal with that, because that is a navigation itself, isn't it? How do you deal with an argument without letting it escalate?
That is a really good question, and it's something that I work with couples with a lot. Is I get couples to choose a safe word,
Mm,
because in the heat of the moment, couples tend to want to argue content, right,
yes.
instead of addressing the behavior. So what I do is I try to get them out of content, address the behavior or the address the idea that you're actually in an escalated situation, and that's not a place that you can make decisions
No.
from, or really engage with each other effectively. So I give couples a safe word, and I say, use your safe word, walk away, take some time, act like good citizens toward each other, and then when you've calmed down, come back and then talk about it and see
Mm.
what you can do. Because yeah, when you're escalated in your emotions, your escalated emotions are up here, and your thinking brain is shut off. Literally, literally.
It's at the soles of your feet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
You
it
got
becomes the
you.
mudslinging match, right? And
Yeah.
who can throw the biggest mud? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it tells you that conflict tells you a lot about who a person is. And this is really an important piece of what I'm going to talk about today. When you're in that space of setting a like the safe word, that's actually a boundary that's saying, I don't want to do this with you. I want something else. And so then you get to see if that person can actually respect that boundary.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit today.
Definitely. And I just want to hit on the safe word. Don't use a common word that could easily be thrown out. Like have a word like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, right?
Exactly.
Because it's a word that
Exactly.
kind of doesn't belong in the argument. And so it
Yes.
is a word they have to pay attention to. If you have a generic word, it can get lost in the argument. And you go, but I said my safe word and I didn't hear it. So have
Right.
a word, fiddlesticks, balderdash,
Yes.
anything like that. But a word that definitely doesn't belong, because then they hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love supercalifragilistic. That's a great one. Because I mean, the more levity you can bring to it, maybe
Yes.
that is enough to break the tension.
Yes.
Right.
And
And
laugh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I tell people, like, use the name of your favorite pet, or
Yeah.
something that feels good to both of you, that might bring some levity. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yes, because otherwise it gets lost. And you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter whether it's your loved one, a boss, or even yourself. You never can make clear decisions when you're in a state of anger, because everything tenses up. That means the oxygen isn't getting to the brain, so the
Exactly.
thought process isn't working properly, and you cannot make rational decisions in a flight or fight mode. All
At
right.
all.
So it is both need to calm down, reassess. And I would even go a step further, depending on whom you're with, that sometimes the spoken word can't be heard, but the written word is better. So,
Hmm.
know your partner. And I found with mine, it was if I wrote how I felt, and that's the point of this is you write how you feel and you regurgitate, you let it all out. Right. Then you read it back and go, no, that's a bit tough. I can't really say that. And you filter and you
Yeah.
filter and you filter. And then you get to the point clearly, concisely, without bashing. And you send them that and you say, I don't want an answer until you really have digested. Let them digest it in their own time. And when they're ready, now you can really converse about it. Right. But
Hmm.
both need to decompress, and you need to get things off your chest. So go and do it somewhere else, either writing or hug a tree or do whatever it is you need to do, right? Punch a bag. Uh,
Yep.
but I find with the writing, and you said this and you did this and you made me feel like that. And then afterwards you read it and go, no, really, that's my responsibility. No, I really shouldn't say that. And you filter out. You wouldn't have filtered it out if you'd said it to each other. By
Correct.
writing it, you're filtering out. And now you're actually giving, this is why I reacted in this way. And now they can see what triggered that reaction. and they can take like accountability as well. And I think it's a more rational way of approaching something because we can't do it, but the yelling match serves nobody.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I tell people to go out and buy a pool noodle and beat the crap out of your pillow, or,
Yes,
scream in your car. And
yes.
actually, I'm going to steal the journaling one because that's a really good
No,
idea.
it
Like,
really
just
does
get it
work,
out.
actually. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Get it out.
You get
Yeah.
it out and then write it out in a clear, concise way and give it to them and say, I don't go read this. When you've digested and you're ready for an answer, you can either write back or we can talk.
Yeah.
Um, I don't need an answer right this moment, and let them digest it on their own time. And then you can really actually address the problem, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you've filtered out all the emotion. Now you can really address the problem with clear heads.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a really good point, is like you do have to come back and talk about it. And you made another good point, was like the accountability piece. Is like,
Yes.
after you've written all that out, can you act? Are you with a partner that can actually be accountable for their actions, or do they want to just continue to blame you? Because
Hmm.
in that moment of spiked reaction, all your defenses are up, right? And so all you can see is somebody on the attack. That's all you get to see.
Yes.
Your partner
Yes.
is no longer your team member, they are your enemy. And so can you get past the point where
Yeah.
your partner becomes your team member again and is no
Yes.
longer your enemy?
I mean, it also shows you because, as you said, when you're in the euphoria moment, it's like, love you forever. I love you forever.
Yeah.
And, then you get to that argument and it's like, can you get past it? The
Mhm,
worst thing is when somebody holds a grudge. And
mhm,
if they bring up the last argument in the next argument and throw it back in your face,
mhm.
and that now you've really got a red flag, right?
Right. Yeah. Or even if they just can never take accountability and
Yeah.
you're always the one to blame.
Yes.
Like, if they're always pointing the finger at you, and no, like even 24 hours later, no, that fight was your fault. It's like,
And that
well,
could be that you're with a narcissist.
it could be.
That could be the first indication when there's no
Could be.
accountability whatsoever. Yes. Uh, so hopefully you find that out before you put the ring on it.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah. Because that first euphoria
Mm,
doesn't like the euphoria actually is physiological, and it's built in to our species on purpose,
mhm.
because it's how our species perpetuates, right? It makes sure that people are making love, right?
Yes.
Because they're so attracted to each other. And so for that first 3 months, 6 months, that's all it takes to make a baby. And so
Yeah.
that's what happens to ourselves, to
And
us.
then let's face it, back in the day, there was no long courting. There wasn't engagements, there was,
No,
stars and then marriage and then babies all in the first year. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. At age
yeah,
14, 15, 16, like it was
exactly.
normal. Yeah.
And of course at that age especially, romance is everything.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
right. So, can't, oh no, they're not a serial killer.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to find out before you marry somebody.
Exactly, because you're so Google Gaga-eyed, you fall in love with
Yes.
everything. And how many people are we in love with when we're in our teens? So, it's not a good time to commit to anything.
No.
Getting past that, when you meet someone and you go, like, we just clicked. It was great. We could talk for
Mm,
hours. We could feel the chemistry between us. And that is absolutely wonderful because that connection's been made. The big
mhm.
thing now is what about the sustainability?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so this is the important part. Is like the first thing that you need to do is establish that safe word, establish that boundary, and go from there. And so, can I actually want to tell a story about my mom, if that's okay?
Yes, yes.
Because this is what I learned for myself. Because when I first wrote my book, I was newly into my marriage, and found what it actually took to get a relationship and have a relationship and have a marriage. And now 13 years in, I'm finding that there's a bunch of different skills that you need to actually maintain the
Mm,
relationship.
yes.
And like we're talking about Valentine's Day, so everybody's thinking about, lingerie and flowers and all that
Mm,
kind of stuff. And so your typical answers would be, do that more often, have a date night and all
mm,
that kind of stuff. And everybody's heard that stuff before. And I think that there's one more thing that's crucial, and this is where the egg comes in, and I'll explain a little bit about the egg in a little bit. But my story with my mom was that she was um I was always scared of her. Like she was the angry one in the family.
Mhm.
So like my mom had this big flary temper, and like when you were in trouble, your knees were quaking and you knew it. And so I never learned how to love her at all,
Mm.
which means you never really learn how to love.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes, a mother's love is that first love.
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
And so when I was in my, I don't know, late 30s or mid 30s, I started doing all these personal development workshops, hoping that that would be my catalyst to help me learn how to love my mom. And so I did all these things that they said and burnt all the sage and, did all that kind of stuff. And nothing ever changed. And then trying to get myself home into a loving
Mhm.
space for my mom. It's like, you know, and nothing really ever worked because I was just still always afraid of her. And finally, when I started taking my counseling program, there was more. And so what I did one day is I sat down with my mom and I was honest with her.
Mhm.
I said, you know what, Mom? I have no idea what it's like to love you because I've always been afraid of you, and I want something new. And she didn't really respond, but we cried together. And all she said was, I'm glad we talked, because neither of us knew what that was going to look like, from that moment on. And so the next time we met, so here's an example of what would happen. So when we would meet, we'd meet for lunch or whatever. And her hello would be, that dress makes you look fat. like that was my mom. And
Ah, thank you
so
for the warm and fuzzies.
yeah, love you too. And so I was like, and now that I had had the conversation, I was more aware
Mm,
of what it was that was causing my fear. And so I said, Mom, this is it. Remember the conversation we had? Because I now had
mm,
her a frame of reference for her about what it is that I wanted and why I was talking about this stuff. I was like, this is it. This is what gets in my way
mhm,
of wanting of being able to feel close to you.
mhm.
And because I don't feel cared about
Yes.
when and talking about me. I'm just talking about me, not talking about her. I don't feel cared about when I hear things like that. And so what I was asking her to do was stop controlling the way that she had learned how to control her whole life.
Mm,
Here was a woman in her 70s probably by then, and I was asking her to do something different, and she didn't know how to do that.
right.
So what happened? So yeah, so I was doing the thing like calling. I was calling the safe word essentially,
Yes, yes.
and she didn't know what to do with that, so she got worse. Like she amped it up,
Mm.
and so I struggled to like pull together all the courage that I had one more time, and I said, because so it happened again. Your face is a mess. I'm like, and that time I was like,
Can we escalate this? What else is wrong? Yeah.
exactly. Eyebrows too close together, hair's too curly. I don't know. And so I stopped her that time and I said, Mom, this is feeling really bad to me now. Like this just isn't how I'm going to learn to love you.
Mhm.
And she heard me that time. She
Mm,
heard me. And so from that moment on, she was still a cantankerous old coot till the day she died. Like she wasn't any different,
right.
but I was.
Yes.
Like I learned to set a boundary for myself that I
Yes.
knew that I could create a sense of safety for
Yes.
myself. And
Yes.
when I did that, I loved her openly and freely and warmly like a little child for the rest of my life till the day
Yeah.
she died.
You took back your power.
I did. And
In
that
other
was,
words, it wasn't you understood that her reflecting on you was her issue. It had nothing to do with you. So therefore you didn't need to put any attachment to it.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
And I knew that at any point again, if she started getting rah, 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 I could say, Mom, enough.
yeah.
Not today.
Yeah. Yes. It's actually interesting because this is kind of the relationship my kids have with their father. I mean,
Uh,
they're fully aware of who he is, fully aware,
uh,
right? And they go, I love you, but I know your love is limited, right?
yeah.
And they
Yeah.
accept that, he cannot love in the way that they would like to be loved. He
Right.
loves them, but his way
Yeah.
of showing it is very different. And, it's kind of learning not to be hurt. by the either inaction or the various things that are said, and
Mhm.
that it's him, it's not them. So
Exactly.
when they see him, and we're all going to be together this coming weekend, we're doing a delayed shared Chinese New Year because he's Chinese, and the whole
Ah,
families are going to be together along with another family. We always used to do this, so we've kind of decided to put the two families together, which have now grown, grandkids and things like that. So,
nice. Love
and
it.
he would be there, and but whenever we walked our daughter down the aisle together, we celebrations together. But, like one time he attacked me, and my daughter said, "Leave the house and don't come back until your attitude is changed." And he was
Oh,
kind of shocked by this. He said, "Not
good
in
for
my
her.
house." And it's like, so they have their boundaries of what they will take and what they won't take. But they also
Wow.
know he is who he is. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
take him at who he is, but that doesn't define who I am.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's the
exactly.
that's the thing, is that whatever your mother went through in life, she never dealt with it.
That's
Right?
right. And neither
She
did her mother and her mother and her mother
Exactly. The
before that.
pattern
Yeah.
carries on, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
You broke that pattern because you were willing to do the work.
Yes.
For that generation, what work? There's nothing wrong with me. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you,
Yeah,
not me.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have the same opportunities that
No.
we have right now for mental health care. And
Yeah.
there was no talk about, like, if you were in those days, like if you went to a counselor, it was like, "Ooh, a scandal."
Exactly. What's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Oh, you were
Yeah.
institutionalized. Actually, I had a
Right.
grandfather that was
Yes.
institutionalized for post-traumatic stress before they knew what that was.
Right.
Right? So,
Exactly.
this is the fear actually was quite genuine with them of not, and this whole thing of husbands putting wives in institutions for hysteria when they wanted to get rid of
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
is was went right into the last century. So you can understand where their fear came from. But
Absolutely.
we've been encouraged in our generation to deal with that fear, to face that fear, to
Hmm.
say I'm worthy of love.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to love myself. That's not egotistical or narcissistic. This is loving myself, who I am, for what I am and what I contribute. And from that place is the love I want matched.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
and I
who
wasn't
who else
encouraged with
is,
them.
no, not at all. And who is it that's going to take care of you, that knows the best way how to take care of you than you?
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
And we're always going to be loved in the light that we love ourselves.
Yes,
So if we
exactly.
don't really love ourselves and then somebody doesn't really love us, what is that saying? Raise your own love volume, your own self-love
Absolutely.
volume, and then you will match that vibe with somebody that tunes into that vibe. So the first loving relationship you have after really your mother or your father is yourself.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how you continue to have love after Valentine's,
Yes.
right? Is
Yes.
that. So can I show you my egg? Because I think that
Yes.
the egg actually talks to this really well. And so you're going to get to see my beautiful drawing here. So this is my egg.
Aha. So for the
So
people listening, it's a round egg divided in the middle, you one side, question mark the other side.
exactly. And so the egg is 100% of the relationship,
Right.
and you have 50% of the responsibility in that relationship, and so is
Exactly.
the other person. And
Yes.
so this is where clear boundaries are important for you, because like what we're talking about, you taking care of you,
Mm-hmm.
this is how you keep the love alive, is by, like, this line in the middle
Mm-hmm.
is a healthy boundary.
Right.
And as long as you're keeping that intact,
Yes.
you can openly and freely love the other person on the other side of the line, just like I did with my mom.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so how you know if you're over or under the line is, like, if you're over the line, you think that you know what that person needs to do with
Mm-hmm.
their life, and you make no bones about telling them
Mm-hmm.
or not.
Yeah.
Like, you're the bossy one. You think that you know what that person is thinking, and it's never good.
Mm-hmm.
um what else is there? It's like you don't have any faith in that person, essentially, to lead their life the way that you think that they should. And so you put yourself in sort of the authority mind of that person.
Right.
And if this person is in agreement with you, you're going to live your life here.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this person is going to agree, yeah, you're right, I'm not capable, you take over my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, right. And again, for the people that are just listening, the dividing line has moved over,
Hmm.
diminishing the halfway mark of the other person, because
Exactly.
you have now taken control over them. And that's one of the worst things you can do in a relationship.
Absolutely. And yet, this person teaches you how to treat them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so they agree, like they're in agree,
Yeah.
like you can't be here without their agreement.
That was my marriage. 100%. Even when I asked for
Yeah,
the divorce, that's exactly what he said. I've lost the control I had over you.
right,
And that was it because I gave him control. He kept pointing out all my flaws, all my problems, everything I
uh,
was, and he wasn't like he was going to fix me, but he lorded it over me. And so
right.
that line got bigger and bigger, where he then took control over my life. And it's only when I pushed back and took back my control that
Yes,
that things changed. Well, things changed. It was goodbye.
yes. And that is a brilliant example because this person, like if you this person is going to start saying, "Hey, no,"
Hmm.
like it can be either person. Like this
Yes,
person can start to go, oh, hey, wait a minute, I'm being too bossy, I'm going to pull that back. This person can step up to this line and say, hey, stop. But for you to be on this line, both people have to be in agreement about that.
yes,
And when
yes,
one person's not, that's when you have to make decisions.
right.
And people, like, what one of the things that I don't like is people say, I walked away from a toxic relationship. And one of the things that I will say is that if you actually, because like this line is actually about a confession and an invitation.
Mm,
It's about, here's what I want.
hmm.
I want that with you. Do
Hmm.
you want that too?
Hmm.
And then there's uh no puzzle, no confusion on the side of the other
Right,
person about if you're going to walk away, why you're going to walk away.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or often they'll just walk away themselves. They'll be like, hell no. you know,
Yes,
I'm not sticking around for that. That's not what I want. I want to control you. And if you're
right.
not in for that game, then I'm out of here.
Exactly. And that was the kind of the case when I took back my control. The interest
Yeah.
lost, right? Because it was all
Yeah.
about, and why does somebody want to control another? It's because they feel out of control within themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so this person over here that's trying to control doesn't know how to manage their own anxiety, and so they
Exactly.
they yeah, project it onto
Imposing.
you.
Yes,
They
yeah,
impose it onto you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And that dividing line isn't a division of you're one side, I'm the other side. I have a fabulous
No.
picture that I put out all the time, and it's man and woman where you can distinctly see their face, but then there's the merging of the face together. So what we
Yeah,
want people to do is you are bringing your strength and your strength. In the individual strength can stand alone. But when you
absolutely.
bring those strengths together in unity, like you lock your fingers and then pull, then you
Yeah.
are inseparable, but you're not
Yeah.
inseparable if one is dependent on the other. Now, there are going to be situations in your relationship through circumstances where you do become more dependent over your partner. And that's the yin and yang, the give and take. That's when the partner steps up because he knows at this time period you're vulnerable, you can't cope, and you need to take the reins. And it's all about strengthening that partner so they can get back up on their own 2 feet and then be there again for each other. It's that give and take. And I think it's when you talk about the seesaw, the teeter-totter, it's not about how high you can get and how low you can get. It's how can you keep the rhythm, the flow, the up and
Yeah.
down, and ride in that rhythm. So there isn't the extreme of somebody is up there and somebody has down there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful visual of the interdependence, like the independence and the interdependence, and
Yes.
that's gorgeous. And I agree with you. It's like if I'm going camping, give me an overfunctioner any day, you know.
Yes.
It's a matter of like today I'll be the one that's in charge and we'll do this, and tomorrow you can be in charge and we'll do
Exactly.
this, and
You've
and
each
it,
got
it
your own strengths. It's recognizing them, right? And it's not being jealous
absolutely,
of them or going, it's like this is your, you take the wheel on this one, right?
yeah,
Because you recognize that's that person's capability, and there isn't any
absolutely.
jealousy or competition or comparison. It's about recognizing that, and that's respect.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great word to put on it, I would say.
and it's if you are in business with somebody, right?
Hmm.
Everybody
Oh
wears
boy.
a particular hat, and that means that hat is their forte.
Hmm.
Sometimes the CEO may have to wear, different hats, um, but you've got to know when to take the hat off when somebody else is wearing it, and not
Yeah.
compete. That business is only going to be as strong as everybody's participation, as everybody's input, right? Everybody's collaboration. So
Yes,
why
absolutely.
can't we sometimes look at our own relationships with our partners in the same way?
In that way. And I there's a really good answer for that, is because when the person that is the closest to us is where we care the most about what it is that they think and they do, and where we see ourselves reflected to the greatest degree. And so it's with our partner, with our intimate partner, that all of our stuff comes up the most.
Hmm.
And so in business, it's a bit removed, right? You can
Mm,
put your best facade on, and people don't have to always know the real you. Whereas at home, people get to know the real you because you just can't keep up the facade.
right.
And because you care, that's the piece that's the crux, because you care the most about this person and about your life with this person. It's the hardest place to not have your vulnerabilities come up.
I think one of the big things is don't take things personally.
That's it. That's the magic words. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. Their behavior is not about you in any way, even if they're telling you that it
yes.
is. And that's the hardest part for a lot of people. No, but you did this and you did that and you did this, and you know that you're bad at such and such.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, and
Hmm.
your behavior right now is blaming, and that's not okay.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and sometimes somebody just needs to be kind of reminded of that.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. A lot of my
it's like,
clients.
I know that you care and I know that you're frustrated right now, but we're overstepping the line.
Yeah. That's where the
Huh?
safe word comes in.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you see very rarely you see old couples walking along hand in hand,
Isn't
that
it
kind of
cute?
was absolutely gorgeous. Isn't it what every one of us want? We want to go
Yes.
into our twilight years with a partner, right?
Yeah.
And that's somebody that's weathered the storms with us, and shared the joys with us, that companionship. You could sit in a room silent together and feel together, right?
Mm.
And it's you can cheer each other on, you can support each other. Everybody wants that in their life in some form or
Hmm.
other. And when you see these older people like that, it's like the expectation when they got married was one of you're married for life and you are in this together, and kind of everybody
Hmm.
knew their role. Roles today have changed. Women are their own bosses, they're earning their own income, they may earn more than the man or partner, or their career may be more demanding. Then there's kids involved, and it's a different demographic today than it used to be. And to actually see the amount of percentage of people that do grow old together is far less, because we see far more divorce than ever before. And I think if we put the emphasis on ourselves, on what we love, our own self-love of living from inside out, what do I love about me? What do I love about what I do in life? What's my purpose in life? Because somebody's
Hmm.
going to fall in love with you for that,
Exactly.
right? And so
Exactly.
it's not about finding someone who completes you, but somebody who complements you. And I don't mean compliments you, you're beautiful. I mean compliments you in what you do, that they're just as passionate about something they do. And sometimes you can bring those passions together. Otherwise, you can just celebrate each other's passions, even though they're different. But it's different to the way it used to be. And we're still navigating that path, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you've brought up a couple of really good points about this, is that the more that each person is fulfilled within themselves and when they're in their own lives, the more of them that they have to bring to a relationship.
Yes.
And a lot of people think that they have to leave a relationship to go discover themselves. And if you've got a supportive partner, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You can actually do that. And in terms of changing roles, I saw a really beautiful blog the other day, and there was this man who demanded, I am no longer helping my wife. And I was like, whoa, my hair was blown back a little bit when I read that title.
Yeah.
So I had to go read it. And he said that my wife goes and works out of the house just as many hours a week as I do. And the house, or the kids, the house, all of that kind of stuff, traditionally has been put on the wife as the person that has to be at least the one in charge
Hmm.
of asking me to be, can you help with this? Can you help with that? He's like,
Take out the
no.
garbage.
Yeah, can you? Yeah, hey, honey, here's the honey-do list. Can you get the garbage? He's like, I'm changing that perspective. I'm no longer helping her. I am an equal partner
Exactly.
here. And I was like,
Exactly.
yes, you
Yes.
go. You
Yeah.
go. I'm not going to sit around and be the one that she has to nag to be able to get the
Mm,
lawn mowed. I'm going to step up and do my part and ask and do my own looking around to see what it is that needs to be done instead of counting on her to be the one with the ticker tape of all the list of things that need to be done.
exactly. My daughter and her husband have that relationship. And although,
Brilliant.
like he's not a great cook, so she does do the cooking, but
Great.
then he goes and does other things that she can't do or doesn't want to do. But when it comes to parenting, they are 100% equal co-parenting. Every other morning, one gets to sleep in while the other one gets up with the babies, so that they, switch that out. And recently over Christmas, we all got the RSV virus from my one grandson, and
Mm.
my other grandson ended up 6 days in hospital with it.
Oh
So
no.
they alternated, being there, and one got a good night's sleep while the other one was in the hospital, and I was there looking after the other one. But they are an absolute partnership. It is, they recognize, okay, I can do this, that's not your strength. You can do that, that's not my strength. But this is what we can do together. And decisions are made together and things like that. And it's
Mm.
as she pointed out, we're partners. We're partners and we're going to behave like partners. And for my younger daughter, it was like, I'm not going to have your marriage, mum. So each generation kind of learns from the next generation, but she did a nice big leap of making
Ah,
sure that she didn't, marry that same person. So there is no one person controlling the other.
wow.
One has a
That's
strength in this area, one has a strength in that area, and they recognize it. Obviously
love
they
that.
still have some tit-a-tays now and again, but they know
Oh,
how
sure.
to do
Sure.
it. But yeah, and that's, I think, that generation. They're in their 30s. He's about to turn 40, same age as my son, who's about to get married. He's getting
Oh,
married at 39,
nice.
right? Married to somebody who has been married and has a daughter. Uh, but this is for him, he's been in long-term relationships, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years. And now, finally, this is the first woman he's put a ring on it. Right.
Ah,
And so, they're getting married in August, and she's Italian. So yes, there's tumultuousness sometimes, and he could be very tumultuous, but they both work on, dealing with that. And we call that the 10% factor. That 10% of either past trauma or can't deal with issues, make sure it doesn't bleed into the 90% of your relationship. And then,
oh.
look at that 10% as, what are you going through right now that you're reacting this way? How can I
Mm.
support you, or what do you need in order to get through it? Just make sure it doesn't bleed into the 90%.
Oh, that's a really good model. I like that one.
Mhm.
One of the ones that I use when I counsel couples is to look at your relationship. Like, say you've been in a relationship for 2 years. There's you, there's your partner, and then there's the relationship, and there are three separate entities.
Yes.
And so if you've been in a relationship for 2 years, you are dealing with a 2 year old.
Yeah.
If you've been in a relationship for 20 years, you're each in a relationship with a 20-year-old. A 20-year-old has more wherewithal, more
Uh-huh.
experience, more 10%,
Yes.
more
Yeah.
more experience with the 10%. Whereas a 2-year-old needs a little bit more nurturing, needs a little bit more care until it can start to grow up and start to grow. You can grow together into that beautiful visual that you gave
Yeah.
earlier of the faces meshed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly. It is work,
it
but it
is.
doesn't have to be hard work.
That's right.
If you put things in place to make sure that you don't go across those boundary lines, right? That there isn't that pushback. I'm recognizing this is getting out of control right now. Let's take time out,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? or if you're driving in the car together, because that's a big one. A lot of arguments happen in the car and you can't walk away. I'm putting the radio on right now and we're both being quiet,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
not escalate it. Even if the other person wants to go,
Hmm.
as
Yep.
much as you would like to back,
Yep. Sometimes
bite
we're
your
on a
tongue,
roll.
grit your teeth, and go, It's like with your
Exactly.
children, they know when you're mad. Don't do that. I've told you not to do. Stop that.
Hmm.
And they just keep pushing the boundaries. When you go, stop that,
Yes.
right? Then it's suddenly,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh my
mama's mad. She's crossed
mom's
that
bad.
boundary now, right? So, just like the safe word, sometimes that tone goes, I've had enough. That's it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's recognizing that and having enough respect for your partner to know you're pushing too much. This is not a
Absolutely.
safe space, right? And especially in a
Absolutely.
car when a person feels they can't step back and they can't move away. And plus, it's dangerous. If someone's driving and arguing, it's dangerous. You're driving. Concentrate on the road, not on your argument.
Yeah, you need your thinking brain for when you're on the road, and you're not in your thinking brain when
No.
you're arguing. Absolutely. And I mean, boundaries also come in at a like really crucially at the beginning of a relationship too, because it establishes really, like, I would not be married to my husband right now if I hadn't established some really clear boundaries about what it is that I wanted and where it is I wanted my life to go.
Mm,
Again, it's always like people think of a boundary as a you've got to stop doing this or else
yes.
I'm da dying. It's like, no, that's absolutely not. A boundary is a confession and an invitation. Here's what I want. I want that with you. Do you want that too?
Yeah.
And so it's important to have those kinds of big conversations about lifestyle and what it is you want and where it is you're going for your future to make sure you're on the same page. Like it
And
would
to
it
and
would
to and
be
to recognize that there's going to be different stages in life. And my daughter's husband, she went back to university at 27.
good for
Right.
her.
And he supported her completely on that. And every paper that she wrote, he would read and give her a feedback on it. And she always felt that she could trust it, right? Like he was that sounding
Hmm.
board. And then if he's got something, he brings it to her. And then again, there's that true partnership there, which is so important. It isn't one person lording over the other. It is like, you know, um, this is my strength, this isn't my strength, oh, I just need somebody to hear it or see it or read it and give a second opinion. And that's when you trust your partner. That no malice is going to come out of this, no competition is going to come out of this. My brother is an author, and he will send me the the book when before it gets published, and what do you think? And I'll come back at him and I'll go, when the character's in this position or that position, it's not clear or this or that. And that gives him a
Hmm.
sounding board to go back. I go, okay. And I do. There's like, it's not an attack. It's not saying
Right.
it sucks. It's just saying this is a different view on something, right? That, just needs to be clarified. And when you trust somebody, you respect that view because you know it's not coming out of any other malice or competition. It's coming out of, I want you to succeed. And
Absolutely.
my brother edited my book when I wrote it. And I was actually really surprised because he's an author and he's a professor, a master's degree of literature. And, my writing is very, very different. And
Hmm.
my topic is very, very different because it was my memoir. And I was kind of expecting to kind of push back because when I used to write for his magazine, he would change it. And I go, no, you're changing my entire essence of what I'm saying. Edit it
Hmm.
because my
Hmm.
grammar and spelling is terrible. I have dyslexia, but write it, let it be my voice. And when he did, then he started getting people. I started getting people responding to what I'm writing. Why are they responding? And guess I said I'm writing in familiarity, right?
Yes.
I'm writing in a way that they can relate to, and it's invitational for them to then converse. But when he edited my book, it ended up being something that he learned something about me. Right. And he
That's
go, I
nice.
noticed there's this running through your book. And I was expecting, and I was quite pleasantly surprised at how much he kind of accepted it. So, plus he's
Hmm.
edited my latest book, which is coming out this week as well. Our Forgotten Children book. Got to put a plug in. It's 15 authors who have contributed to the book on raising our children. Our Forgotten Children, and
Our Forgotten
uh,
Children. Lovely.
it's very much talks about relationships with education, with medical, with families, with our children. And we need to raise our children differently today because our dysfunctional adults today is the way we raised them yesterday. And
Mm-hmm.
systems have to change, and we need to pay more attention. So when you have somebody that's wounded, that comes to a relationship wounded, I can
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you reverse engineer and look at the wounded child within,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah, there,
ask
oh,
them to heal that wounded child and say, you'll support you while you're wounded, that wounded child. But if that wounded child comes into our relationship at this stage, it may end up destroying it. So let's work together on healing so that our
yeah.
relationship can be on a different level.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's actually a book about that that I recommend to my clients. It's called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an easy read and a very good read and explains a lot about what you're just talking about. And the thing about the wounded child is there's, I guess for me, there's degrees of woundedness and how you can actually help yourself heal. Like you can
Yes.
use your relationship to help yourself heal if you have two willing participants. And there's an acronym RAS: recognize, accept, and share.
Mm,
So it's like you start to recognize when you are in your feeling, your trauma wound,
right.
you accept that you're there, and then you share it with your partner. And then if
Mm,
you've got a truly receptive partner, you can do so much healing together. It's a really
absolutely.
beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yes. And that, was, I think, one of the greatest gifts you can give your partner, as you can give
Oh,
yourself, is vulnerability.
yes.
If you
Yeah.
do not feel safe to give your vulnerability in the relationship, then your relationship is either wrong or it's in trouble, right?
Well, and it may not, there's always two things. Like it may be the relationship, but it may be you. Like
Yes.
you may just be programmed to not share
Yeah.
vulnerably because of your upbringing, because that's actually an intrinsic part of the wounding is it says don't tell anybody,
Yes.
keep this a
Yes.
secret, don't, if you tell people you're gonna be ostracized,
You're
like
going to be
there's that
judged and
voice, you're gonna be
persecuted, and yeah.
exactly all of that.
Yeah.
So the wounding comes with that voice in itself, and so you may have a safe partner but you just might not feel safe to share, or you've tried sharing and your partner isn't a safe, they don't understand how to be a safe space to be. But that can all be worked through. Like it's
Yeah.
possible to work through that.
The
Mm-hmm.
willingness to work through it, that's the thing. The
Yeah.
willingness to say, look, I don't know how to handle this. We need to get some outside help.
Yeah,
And that,
absolutely.
that takes courage, because
Yes.
each one of us wants to think that we can do it ourselves, right?
Yeah, we can't.
But
Like
to
if
say, just like
yeah,
with the editing, you need somebody with an outside voice,
you do.
somebody who can hear and listen and then go, have you noticed? Or this, I see this popping up, and you're not aware of it because you're in it. So you need that
Right.
outside, outside voice, outside projection to look at it and go, this is something that obviously needs to be addressed. And no, no, that's okay. No.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
body changes, the tone changes every time you
Yeah.
mention that. No, it ain't okay.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, less than 10% of our communication is the words. The rest is
Yes,
tone and body language and
yes,
all of that.
yes,
It's like very subtle. So
yes.
yes,
Now, what do
thanks.
you mean something's wrong? I'm okay.
through gritted teeth.
Yes, or the chin starts going or the shoulders go back. Yeah, you always know, right? And this is perhaps when you start seeing that body action on your partner, this is maybe not the time, to say, okay, I just like you to know I'd like to address this
Yes.
later.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let them get their out of the way
Yeah.
first, and
Exactly.
prepare for it. Don't, especially, I'm afraid, sorry guys, but especially with a guy, because
Yeah.
they go more into into ego mode, because it's been brought up as a man, you're in charge, you're the man, you don't show the
Uh,
vulnerability, you could cope with anything, and then you give them something they don't know how to cope with, like emotion, and it's, immediately that defense and that ego kind of steps in and goes like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And
mm,
uh and it's like, let them get that out of it. Okay, you go and spend that, and then when you're ready, come back and let's talk about it.
hmm. And I mean, yeah, the men certainly do tend to have that way of defending. That is their tendency. But
Mhm.
women have their own way of
Yeah.
defending as well. And it just looks less obvious. And
I
so
think
it
we go
doesn't,
in more and shut down. A
we
man, I
can't,
think, it kind of projects out, and we go withdraw.
it can be, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, there's, everybody fights, flights, or
yeah,
freezes.
yes,
And so, yeah, women's can look um, like it's easy from a woman's perspective to make the guy look like the bad guy because he's the one that's angry,
yes,
right? But
yes.
meanwhile, we've shut him out,
Uh-huh. So
and
he's just
so,
talking to a brick wall.
right.
Yeah, so you're getting more
Yeah.
frustrated because he's talking to a brick wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not always the way it goes, but
Yeah,
you see that
yeah,
pattern more often for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
In any relationships, like I say with my husband, he was a browbeater, and I called him a
Mm,
piranha. He would suck the energy out of me. But
yeah.
as I kind of came more into my own recovery and took more my own life, my own empowerment, I
Mhm.
realized I gave him the boots to kick me with. The fact that he
Right.
put them on and kicked, right? But I
Yes.
gave them that because as you drew in that egg line, I pushed
Hmm.
that, I gave
Yeah.
my control over my own decisions myself over to him, but he took that power,
Hmm.
right, and abused it. But I gave myself away. And
Right.
that's something we can only kind of give ourselves away, so to speak, to someone where there is that, in that dividing line, I would say that there's a line on this side of the dividing line, there's that place in the center there,
Mm.
right? That is you want to both meet there in this
Mm.
safe arena, but you want to know it's a safe place to meet.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and you've said something really important there as well, is that in taking your power back, again, it's not a fight, it's an
No.
invitation,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's an important distinction that people, you know, if you're just going to fight back, you're just in the content, right?
Exactly.
You're
And
not actually addressing anything.
it's forever going around and around like a hamster wheel. It never
Yes.
gets resolved, and it just gets a bigger hamster wheel over time,
Yes.
right? And it's perpetual. And if you're not willing to seek the help, or if you're not willing to recognize it, you're not willing to address it, then at some point you have to pull away from it. Otherwise, it will eat you up. Which
Hmm.
I was one of those, and I've seen far too many women in my life that have just been gobbled up by
Hmm.
that situation where they've retreated, they've basically handed themselves over because they couldn't fight anymore.
Right.
And instead of walking away, they just kind of wither away.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and you said something that was really important about you gave your husband the boots to kick you
Yeah.
with. And it doesn't mean that like you said, it doesn't mean he had to kick you.
Right.
However, if you keep looking at the fact that he's kicking, not the fact that you gave him the boots,
Yeah.
you're never ever going, like, because you can't change that if he doesn't want to change that, but
Right.
you can take the boots away.
Exactly.
And
And that's what I did. I took the
that's
boots away.
yes, and
Yeah.
that's where your empowerment comes from. So
Exactly.
so for you to keep pointing the finger and saying he's the bad guy, I promise that's not going to help. It's
Three
not going to
fingers are
help.
pointing back at you. What's
Exactly.
your accountability, your responsibility? What are you doing about it? Exactly.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and that I had to come to that realization, but I had to get out of my woundedness,
Yeah.
right? I had to get it out of the woundedness and the trauma of it,
Mhm.
to realize that I was letting this happen. And
Mm.
I needed outside help to do it. I seeked it in
Ah,
different
good for
ways,
you.
in spiritual ways. Um, but then as each time it became more and more of aware of, I don't need to let this happen anymore.
Mhm.
Um, a hard thing to do with a piranha because they'll follow you from room to room and room until they suck the life out of you, right? Because
Right.
it's very hard
Yeah.
to escape. But when I changed my energy towards him, that happened less and less because my energy had that boundary wall that
Right.
was much stronger, and it couldn't get
Mm.
past that wall. And
Beautiful.
so it was taking back my power. And we want to get to that stage where that equality in the relationship is there, right?
Yes.
The recognition of each other's gift to each other, the gift to ourselves, and that relationship is founded in a mutual respect for one another. And respect
Exactly.
isn't just, oh, here's my respect for you. It is something earned. It is something that deepens over time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's something that's demonstrated.
Exactly.
Yeah, like my relationship with my mom started to become a demonstration of that.
Yes.
First of all, me respecting the relationship, saying, this is, I want something new here, and her finally hearing me and going, okay. But I've actually had that happen with another friend, and the friend walked away.
hmm Yeah,
So
exactly.
not everybody wants it.
No, no, not everybody can, and
Yeah.
you know they've got to be willing to recognize something's wrong, and instead of persecution, you know, self-persecution, if something's wrong, I'm in a pattern that maybe
Mm-hmm.
was imposed upon me. I have to change the program. I have
Mm-hmm.
to change the pattern, and that empowerment lies within me. But not
That's right.
everybody can step into that courage and that strength to
That's
do
right.
it,
Yeah.
and they've got to want to. When you really
That's right.
want to, you will find the courage and the strength.
Absolutely.
I know that soon we're going to be coming to an end, so let's address money because money is a
Ah.
huge problem in a relationship, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? People always come to me about conflict, about how to deal effectively with conflict. However, the content of the conflict, the big three,
hmm
money, sex, kids,
Yes.
right? That's the big three. And so, yeah, in relationship, again, it's just like anything. If it's getting like this, like if the you use your safe word, just use your safe word until you find the wherewithal to be able to come back and talk about it. And if you can't, get some help.
Yes.
Like if you need a financial advisor or a money mediator or whatever it is, just like you would need a counselor for
Yeah.
therapy, maybe you need both, right?
But I think you
Um,
also need to actually understand how you each look at money. And I think,
mhm.
you know, before again the ring on it and you come together, exactly, you know, back to the egg.
Yeah.
What is your personal relationship with money?
Mhm.
And for some people, money comes easy. They can generate it easy. For some people, they have a, you know, a different relationship with money. And you've got to identify each other's relationship and go, okay, so that's your relationship for you personally. What's our relationship,
Yes, good point. Love
right?
that.
Because
Yeah,
in the our, that's the mutual bank. This is the yeah, our couple community money, right? What you do with your money, what I do with my money, but what we do with our money, we've got to be on board with.
absolutely. And this is where I show people the egg in terms of because this is you on one side of the egg,
hmm
right? But this question mark doesn't have to be a person, it can be money.
Yes,
So
exactly.
this
What's your
tells you a lot
relationship with sex,
with
money,
money.
children? Yes,
Yes,
self.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like, are you working too hard and
yeah,
burning yourself out and pushing it away, or are you on the other side and not working with it to establish it enough? Like, are you
yeah,
not educating yourself enough? Are you not,
yeah,
all of those things? So
yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's
you
interesting.
know, absolutely. I've said this over and over again. I don't care what topic we talk about. Everything is down to relationship.
Always.
Relationship with self.
Hmm.
Your relationship with self will reflect on your relationship with others, whether
Hmm.
it's in business, whether it's in friendship, or whether it's in love, or whether it's with your children, or whether it's just with people in general. If you're a
Hmm.
grumpy old person who's always putting the blame on everyone else, you are going to impose that grumpiness on everyone, and they're going to either fight back or walk away,
That's
right?
right.
But if you're a person that's coming from that space of self-love, of love and respect, of community value, of
Hmm.
enrichment and abundance, then that love is going to pour over and be invitational. And, you know, yes, you may get the people that just want to suck that love out, but that again comes into your energy level.
Hmm.
Wherever your energy
Absolutely.
boundary is, you're going to attract those people that respect that energy boundary. And
Yeah.
then you're going to benefit those. You can't benefit people with that lower energy because they've got to, in their own self journey, rise up and raise their
Absolutely.
own energy. But it is always comes down to the first and the foremost and the most important is relationship with self.
Exactly. Well said, Sarah. Thank you. A beautiful way to end.
So when somebody listening to this and it's like they're either in a couple relationship or just in a relationship with themselves or they're having a repeated pattern because I married my father. I married a Chinese
Mm-hmm.
guy from Hong Kong in a
Yeah,
different country, different religion, different everything else, but the tendencies were my father, right?
absolutely.
And like I never would have seen that until we were in the marriage, right? Then I realized now, was that me inflicting that expectation unknowingly on him, or was that something I saw in him without recognizing it? So I had to deal with those issues before I brought it to a relationship, which I didn't even know they were issues. So Relationship
Mhm.
with self is so important before you try and look for a partner, because you just don't want to bring your issues to the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could talk about a whole other hour on another podcast about that.
Absolutely, a really big one. So,
Yeah.
how do people get hold of the book? But also, in your counseling,
Mhm.
what, how do you help people individually, couples, groups? How is it work, and how do people reach you, Deb?
Yeah, all of it. So they can find a copy of my book on Amazon. It's called The Lime Green Plastic Covered Couch, and that's a mouthful, I know. And it explains that in the book. But they can reach me they can actually find me on Facebook. I'm just Marion Baker. Or they can reach me at my email, which is marionbaker@shaw.ca. And it's Marion Baker, Baker, at shaw.ca. And what I'm going to do is the first three people that I hear from, I'm going to mail them a copy of my book, free copy of my
Wonderful.
book. So, yeah,
So, a free copy of your book to the first three people that email her at Marion Baker at Shaw, SHAW dot CA, not dot .com, folks, dot CA. And
.ca, Canada,
Canada, all the way. And
Canada.
your site, love.
It's ravenstonecounseling.com.
Ravenstonecounseling.com. And
Yeah,
so all your programming is there. You work with individuals, you work with couples, you work with families. What's
all of it.
all of
Yes.
it?
Individuals, couples, groups is my favorite actually. And so if people can't afford one-on-one counseling, group counseling is a really good way to go.
Yeah.
And so if they're interested in that, let me know and I can even put a group together about this topic.
Is it done one-on-one or is it done through Zoom? How do you do it?
Yep.
So,
Groups would be done on Zoom. Yeah, all of it. Yeah. So I mean, I live in Hope, BC. So if they want to see me personally, that's where they would have to come. But otherwise I can see them on Zoom.
right. And so, I
Mhm.
mean, that, very often, one of the big problems with counseling, I don't have the time. Well, with Zoom, you
Mm.
do. You just carve
Right.
out this amount of time. You've got not, haven't got to get in the car. Haven't
No,
got to
that's
do
right.
anything. You could, if it's couples, you can both either be together or in separate computers in the house.
Separate places in the world.
It's separate places in the world. It doesn't
Yes.
matter, right? And it's all just coming to this one spot. And
Yes.
uh, Uh, yeah, and this is the beauty of this today, this technology is the fact that we don't have to do, that's not an excuse anymore. Well, that
Mm.
person's too far away, or I don't have time to get in the car and do all of that. You don't need to do that now.
That's
Book an
right.
appointment, press the link, and there you are.
And
So
Bob's your uncle. That's right.
everybody needs help. I don't care who you are, how popular, how rich, how this, how that, or anything you are, everybody needs help along the way.
Always.
Doing it on your own, which believe me, folks, it's not easy. I've been there, done
Mm-mm.
that. Having somebody else help you along the way, just reveal things to you, just mirror things to you, showing things to you, or just simply hearing you is
Absolutely.
so important. We
It
all need
is.
that help because when we're in that crisis or in that flux, all we can see is the flux. We can't see any rationalization to do with it. We can't work anything out because we're too busy in it. So you need that objective view who can see it and who can start giving you different ways of looking at it and different tools to apply in order for
Mhm.
you to be able to actually take action in resolving it. So these shows are always about listen, learn, and apply because there's always something that you've listened to, that you've learned, that you can apply to your own life. Now I'm going to sneeze.
Beautiful. Oh, achoo. Bless you. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure. And I'll see you in another 13 years.
No, hopefully not.
Or maybe before.
Yeah, much sooner. So it's revelstonecounseling.com, Marion Baker at shaw.ca. The first three people get the book, The Lime Green Plastic Covered Couch, which you can also buy on Amazon. And she's also on Facebook at Marion Baker as well. Reach out. Everybody needs some help. I don't care if you think I've got it all together. Sometimes even having somebody verify that, verify do you've got it all together. It's
Right.
like, you know what? Yeah, you've got it all together. You've got all the things, and that's good for you. Or,
Mm.
you know what? You've got it together, but except in this area, right?
Yeah.
And
Let's
that's
polish that up a bit.
let's polish that up a little bit. You don't
Yeah.
have to be completely broken, before you go to someone that can help. glue you back together with love to become flawsome. Remember the flawsome bowl? Putting your pieces back together with love, then it's unbreakable.
Absolutely.
So it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have something wrong in your life. It's okay for a relationship not to be working out the way you want. All you've got to do is have the willingness to do something about it. So thank you so much, Marion. And to
Okay.
everyone else out there, keep the love alive for the rest of the year. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.